Back in the good old days of relative console infancy and instability, when you still had a bunch of manufacturers eager to get their own console into the ring, there was this unwritten rule when it came to launching a new console. Simple on paper, but in practice, difficult to execute. You need a character, a mascot. Nintendo had the working class Mario, Sega had the grinning juvenile attitude in Sonic. Years later, Microsoft would have their military master, and if Apple ever enters the ring, well, maybe they'll use the apple, or some proponent of healthy eating, I don't know. Point is, each machine needed a face, but not Sony, because they were all too aware of this fact, but the PlayStation was noticeably lacking a recognizable mascot that could be associated with the brand. This was all part of their strategy. Sony never wanted a mascot, and Sony never needed a mascot, but released in 1996, Naughty Dog gave them one. Crash Bandicoot epitomized everything that was awesome about Sony's debut console. Cool, hip, unique, Crash was the cheeky answer to Mario 64, which had set the benchmark for the 3D platformer. The game told a wacky story with a creative cast of enemies. Discarded as a failed experiment at the hands of the game's main antagonist, Dr. Neo Cortex, what's a supervillain without a doctorate, Crash was a peaceful Bandicoot abducted and transformed by Cortex's presumably patented Evolvo Ray. Unfit to guide the malcontent adversary's army of mutated animals after being rejected by the Cortex Vortex, Crash is tossed aside, setting into motion your adventure. It was the game's unique third-person perspective that made Crash an exceptional platformer. Instead of the open-world freedom of Mario 64, this was a 2D world simply flipped on its axis, so that at last you could see those 16-bit and 8-bit worlds of your childhood at the character's back, letting you finally rationalize to some degree how the world operates from their perception. Benefiting from this third-person perspective camera, Crash's world was vibrant and lush with detail. Because the game was a Rails platformer, Naughty Dog was able to do a lot more with the graphics. The almost cartoony comic book feel suited the slapstick, cheeky persona and ridiculousness of Crash's enemies. The player guided Crash through 3 island hubs, which were broken down into a number of sub-levels, again inspired by Mario 64. A take on the Tasmanian Devil, the Bandicoot could perform a spin attack, sending his enemies flying into nearby foes or crates, which housed delicious Wumpa fruit. Unlike the Bandicoot's competitors, Mario and Sonic, Crash was eventually relieved of duty by Sony, succumbing to a gradual fall from grace. He starred in a number of great games before Naughty Dog moved on to the Jak and Daxter series. Awesome as they come, and a nostalgic trip sure to revive memories of the PlayStation 1's heyday, bring back the Bandicoot and Crash once more.
Whoa!